Marcus stood frozen in the rain, watching the woman in uniform collapse against the broken guardrail, and his German shepherd Zeus was already running toward her before Marcus could even think. And what happened in the next 60 seconds would change everything Marcus knew about courage and make him question if one ordinary man and his loyal dog could really save a life when every second counted. And the entire police force was about to learn that heroes don't always wear badges. Sometimes they wear work boots and have 4 paws. Marcus Jenkins was a single dad who worked double shifts at the automotive plant just to keep his 12-year-old daughter Aaliyah in a good school and food on their table. Life had knocked him down more times than he could count, but he always got back up because that's what his mama taught him before she passed. He lived in a small rental house on Pinewood Avenue in Richmond, Virginia, where the streetlights flickered and the sirens were background music most nights. His only real companion besides Aaliyah was Zeus, a 3-year-old German shepherd he'd rescued from the shelter 2 years back. Zeus had been abandoned and scared when Marcus first saw him, but something in those dark eyes told Marcus they understood each other. They both knew what it felt like to be left behind. It was a Tuesday night in October, and the rain was coming down in sheets, the kind that makes you question if the sky has any mercy left. Marcus had just finished his shift and was driving home on Route 40 to a winding road that cut through the woods outside the city. Aaliyah was at her friend's house for a sleepover, and Marcus was looking forward to a quiet evening, maybe watching the game with Zeus curled up at his feet. But life had other plans, and sometimes the detours we don't choose become the roads that define us. Zeus was in the passenger seat, his head hanging out the cracked window, like he always did, rain or shine. Marcus smiled, watching his dog's ears flap in the wind. That's when he saw a dark shape ahead on the side of the road near the old Miller's Bridge. At first Marcus thought it was a deer, but as his headlights swept across the scene, his heart dropped into his stomach. It was a person, and they were on the ground, not moving. Marcus slammed on the brakes and his truck skidded to a stop on the wet pavement. Zeus immediately started barking, that deep, protective bark that meant something was wrong. Marcus threw open his door and ran toward the figure, his work boots splashing through puddles. As he got closer, he could see it was a woman in a dark uniform, and there was blood, so much blood mixing with the rain on the asphalt. Her police cruiser was wrapped around a tree about 30 feet away, steam rising from the crushed hood. The smell of gasoline hung heavy in the air. The woman's eyes fluttered open as Marcus knelt beside her, and he could see the pain written across her face. She was young, maybe early 30s, with blonde hair plastered to her forehead and pale skin that looked even whiter against the dark pavement. Her nameplate read Officer Kate Morrison, and on her shoulder was a patch Marcus had only seen in news reports, the Delta Force insignia. This wasn't just any cop. This was someone who'd served at the highest levels. Someone trained to handle impossible situations, and now she was the one who needed saving. "Don't move," Marcus said, his voice steady, even though his hands were shaking. "I'm gonna help you, okay? You're gonna be fine." Kate tried to speak, but only a gurgling sound came out. Blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. Marcus could see a piece of metal from the guardrail had pierced her side, and her leg was twisted at an angle that made his stomach turn. He pulled out his phone to call 911, but there was no signal. The storm must have knocked out the tower. Panic started to creep in, but then Zeus was there, pressing his warm body against Marcus's leg the way he always did when Marcus needed strength. Okay, think, Marcus said to himself. He looked at Kate's wound and knew he couldn't pull the metal out or she'd bleed out in seconds. He needed to stop the bleeding around it and keep her stable until help came. But how long would that take? The nearest hospital was 20 miles away, and in this storm ambulances might not even be running on these back roads. Kate's hand suddenly gripped Marcus's wrist with surprising strength. Her eyes locked onto his, and she managed to whisper, "Tommy, my son. 7 years old. Tell him Mama tried." Something broke inside Marcus's chest. He thought about Alia, about what it would mean if he wasn't there for her. He thought about all the single parents out there, fighting every day to stay alive for their kids. This woman had fought for her country, had put on a badge to protect strangers, and now she was lying in the rain, thinking these might be her last words. "No, ma'am," Marcus said firmly. "You're gonna tell him yourself. I didn't survive this long just to watch someone else's kid lose their parent. Not on my watch." He stripped off his jacket and his work shirt, leaving just his white undershirt in the freezing rain. He carefully wrapped the shirt around Kate's wound, applying pressure without moving the metal. She screamed a sound that would haunt Marcus for years, but he didn't stop. Zeus suddenly barked and ran back toward the police cruiser. Marcus watched confused as his dog pawed at the car door. "Zeus, what are you doing, boy?" Marcus called out, but Zeus kept barking. Marcus secured the makeshift bandage and ran to the cruiser. The driver's side was crushed, but the passenger side door was intact. Zeus was scratching at it frantically. Marcus pulled it open, and Zeus jumped inside, emerging seconds later with a first aid kit in his jaws. Marcus's eyes went wide. He'd never trained Zeus to do that. "Good boy," he breathed, taking the kit. Inside was gauze medical tape, and most importantly a space blanket. Marcus ran back to Kate and used the proper supplies to better secure her wound. He wrapped her in the space blanket to fight off shock. Her breathing was shallow but steady. She was still with him. "What's your son's name?" Marcus asked, trying to keep Kate conscious. "Tommy," she whispered. "Tommy Morrison. He loves dinosaurs. And baseball. And his mama." A tear rolled down her cheek, mixing with the rain. "He's gonna love his mama for a long, long time," Marcus said. "Because she's a fighter. I can see that. Delta Force don't make weak people, do they?" A ghost of a smile crossed Kate's face. "Retired. Now just small-town cop. Thought the danger was over." "Danger's never over for people like us," Marcus said. "But neither is hope." Zeus suddenly perked up his ears, pointing toward the road. Marcus heard it too, the faint sound of sirens. Relief flooded through him. "You hear that, Kate? Help's coming. You just gotta hold on a little bit longer." But Kate's eyes were closing. "No, no, no," Marcus said, patting her face gently. "Stay with me. Talk to me about Tommy. What's his favorite dinosaur?" "T-Rex," Kate mumbled. "Always T-Rex." "Of course it is," Marcus said, forcing a smile. "That's a good choice. Classic. My daughter Aaliyah, she liked Triceratops when she was little. Said they were the defenders." "I like that. You're a defender too, Kate. You defend people every day. Now let me defend you." The sirens were getting closer, and suddenly 3 police cruisers and an ambulance came screaming around the bend. Officers poured out along with paramedics. Marcus stepped back, giving them room to work, but he kept his eyes on Kate. Zeus sat beside him, both of them soaked to the bone and shaking from the cold and adrenaline. A tall officer with gray hair and captain's bars approached Marcus. "You the one who called this in?" "No, sir," Marcus said. "Phone had no signal. I just stopped. She was here, and I couldn't leave her." The captain looked at Kate being loaded onto a stretcher, then back at Marcus. He saw the blood on Marcus's hands, the torn shirt, the exhaustion in his eyes. "You kept her alive," the captain said quietly. "The paramedic said if she'd been out here alone 5 more minutes, she'd be gone. You saved a cop's life tonight, sir." Marcus shook his head. "I just did what anyone would do." "No," the captain said firmly. "Most people would have driven by. It's dark, it's raining, they'd tell themselves someone else will handle it. But you stopped. You and your dog. What's his name, Zeus?" The captain bent down and scratched Zeus behind the ears. "Good boy, Zeus, very good boy." He stood and handed Marcus a card. "That's my direct number. Captain Robert Walsh. I want to know how you're doing after this." What you did tonight. That's the definition of courage. Marcus took the cart, his hand still trembling. Is she gonna make it, sir? I don't know, Captain Walsh said honestly. But she's got a fighting chance now because of you. That's all any of us can ask for. The ambulance pulled away, lights flashing, and Marcus watched it disappear into the rain. He suddenly felt very tired, like all the energy had drained out of his body at once. Captain Walsh must have noticed because he put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. You need a ride home. You're in no shape to drive. I'll be okay, Marcus started to say, but Zeus barked once, sharp and insistent. Captain Walsh smiled. Your dog disagrees. Come on. We'll have someone drive your truck home. You ride with me. Too tired to argue, Marcus agreed. He and Zeus climbed into the captain's cruiser, and during the drive to Pinewood Avenue, Marcus told the whole story. How he'd found Kate, how Zeus had brought the first aid kit, how she'd whispered about her son. Captain Walsh listened without interrupting, and when Marcus finished, the older man was quiet for a long moment. Officer Morrison is one of our best, Captain Walsh finally said. She served 3 tours overseas with Delta Force before she came home and joined our department. She wanted a quieter life for her son after his husband died in combat. She's saved more lives than you can count. And tonight someone finally saved hers. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. I hope she makes it, Captain. I really do. So do I, son. So do I. Captain Walsh pulled up to Marcus's house and helped him out of the cruiser. Get some rest. I'll call you tomorrow with an update. Marcus nodded and walked inside with Zeus. The house was quiet and dark. He stood in the shower for a long time, letting the hot water wash away the blood and the rain and the fear. When he finally climbed into bed, Zeus jumped up beside him, something Marcus usually didn't allow, but tonight he needed his dog clothes. He needed to remember that in a world full of darkness, there were still moments of light. The next morning, Marcus woke to his phone ringing. It was Captain Walsh. She made it through surgery, the captain said, and Marcus could hear the smile in his voice. Critical condition but stable. The doctor said another 10 minutes, and she wouldn't have made it. Marcus, you gave her those 10 minutes. Marcus sat down hard on his bed. Thank God, he whispered. There's something else, Captain Walsh continued. The story's getting out. Local news wants to talk to you. Kate's family wants to meet you. And the police department wants to give you and Zeus commendations. I don't need any of that, Captain, Marcus said quickly. I just want to know she's okay. I understand, Captain Walsh said. But sometimes we need to let people say thank you. It matters. Not just for you, but for everyone watching. People need to see that heroes still exist. That ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Marcus thought about Aaliyah, about the lessons he tried to teach her every day. About being brave even when you're scared. About helping even when it's hard. Maybe the captain was right. Maybe this was about more than just him. Okay, Marcus said finally. I'll do it. For Kate and her son. So they know the world still has good people in it. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in the Richmond Police Department, surrounded by officers and cameras, and people he didn't know. Aaliyah stood beside him in her best dress, bursting with pride. Zeus sat at attention wearing a new collar with a medal attached. Captain Walsh stepped up to the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we're here today to honor 2 heroes. Marcus Jenkins and his dog Zeus. On a rainy night 2 weeks ago, they stopped when others might have kept driving. They acted when others might have hesitated. And because of their courage, Officer Kate Morrison is alive today. The room erupted in applause. Marcus felt his face grow hot. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. But then he saw movement at the back of the room, and his breath caught. Kate Morrison was there in a wheelchair, pushed by a young boy with sandy blonde hair and bright blue eyes. Tommy. She looked pale and tired, but she was smiling. Kate wheeled herself forward, and Tommy walked beside her. When they reached Marcus, Kate held out her hand. Marcus took it gently, afraid he might hurt her. "Thank you," Kate said, her voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for giving me more time with my son. Thank you for not driving by. Thank you for being the kind of man who stops." Marcus knelt down so he was eye level with Tommy. "Your mama's a hero, son. She saved a lot of people. I just made sure she could keep being a hero for you." Tommy looked at his mother, then back at Marcus. Then, without warning, the boy threw his arms around Marcus's neck and hugged him tight. "Thank you for saving my mom," Tommy whispered. "She's all I got." Marcus hugged the boy back and felt tears roll down his face. He didn't care who saw. "You take care of her now, okay? And she'll take care of you. That's what family does." When Tommy pulled back, he looked at Zeus. "Is that the dog who found the first aid kit?" "That's him," Marcus said. "His name's Zeus." Tommy knelt down, and Zeus immediately licked his face, making the boy giggle. Kate watched with tears streaming down her own face. Captain Walsh cleared his throat and continued the ceremony. He presented Marcus with a Citizen's Medal of Valor and Zeus with an honorary K-9 officer badge. The room applauded again, but Marcus barely heard it. He was watching Kate and Tommy and thinking about how fragile life was. How one choice to stop or keep driving could change everything. After the ceremony, a reporter approached Marcus. "Mr. Jenkins, how does it feel to be a hero?" Marcus thought about the question. "I'm not a hero, ma'am," he said slowly. "I'm just a dad who knows what it's like to want more time with your kid." When I saw Officer Morrison lying there, all I could think about was how her son needed her. Just like my daughter needs me. I didn't do anything special. I just couldn't leave her alone. The reporter smiled. "I think that's exactly what makes you a hero, Mr. Jenkins. You saw someone who needed help and you helped. In a world where people walk by, that's everything." That night, Marcus sat on his couch with Aaliyah curled up beside him and Zeus at their feet. The local news played on TV, showing the ceremony, showing Kate and Tommy, showing Marcus kneeling in the rain 2 weeks ago, in security footage from Kate's dashcam that had somehow survived the crash. Aaliyah squeezed her father's hand. "I'm proud of you, Daddy," she said softly. "I'm proud of you too, baby girl," Marcus said, kissing the top of her head. "You know what this taught me? It taught me that we're all capable of more than we think. When the moment comes when someone needs us, we can find strength we didn't know we had. You remember that, okay? You remember that being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means doing the right thing even when you are scared." Aaliyah nodded. "Like you did." "Like I did," Marcus agreed. "And like your mama did every day before she passed. And like Officer Morrison does every day. We're all just trying to take care of each other in this world. That's all any of us can do." The following weeks brought changes Marcus never expected. The story had gone viral on social media, and suddenly people from all over the country were reaching out. Some sent letters thanking him for restoring their faith in humanity. Others sent donations to help with his bills, even though Marcus tried to refuse them. A local businessman even offered Marcus a better-paying job at his company with health benefits and regular hours so he could spend more time with Aaliyah. Marcus was overwhelmed by the kindness. He'd spent so many years struggling, feeling invisible, like nobody cared about people like him. But now strangers were treating him like he mattered. It was humbling and confusing and beautiful all at once. The hardest part was explaining to people that he hadn't done it for recognition. He'd done it because it was right, because Kate was a human being who deserved help, because her son deserved a mother. One Saturday morning, about a month after the accident, Marcus got a surprise visit. Kate pulled up to his house, driving herself this time with Tommy in the passenger seat. She still walked with a cane, but she was moving stronger every day. Marcus was in the front yard raking leaves with Aaliyah while Zeus chased squirrels. When Kate got out of the car, Zeus bounded over to her tail, wagging wildly. "Hey there, Zeus," Kate laughed, scratching his head. Remember me." Tommy ran over too, and Zeus divided his attention between both of them. Kate made her way slowly to where Marcus stood. "Hi, Marcus," she said. "Kate," Marcus said, surprised. "You should have called. I would have cleaned up the place." "It's perfect," Kate said, looking around at the modest house, the fallen leaves, the cheerful chaos. "It looks like home. That's what I wanted to talk to you about, actually." She paused, and Marcus could see she was nervous. "Tommy and I have been talking about what you did for us, about how we can never really repay you. And we realized something. We don't want to just say thank you and move on with our lives. We want you and Aaliyah and Zeus to be part of our lives. If you're open to that." Marcus blinked. "I don't understand." Kate smiled. "I'm saying let's be friends, Marcus. Real friends. The kind who have dinner together and celebrate birthdays and help each other out when times get tough. Tommy needs good role models in his life. Strong men who show up and do the right thing. And honestly, I could use a friend who understands what it's like to be a single parent trying to make it work. What do you say?" Marcus felt his throat tighten. He looked at Aaliyah, who was watching with wide, hopeful eyes. He looked at Tommy, who was rolling in the grass with Zeus laughing like he didn't have a care in the world. He looked back at Kate and saw the sincerity in her face. This wasn't charity. This was connection. This was two families recognizing they were stronger together than apart. "I'd like that," Marcus said quietly. "I'd like that a lot." Kate's smile widened. "Good. Because Tommy has been begging me to teach him how to throw a baseball, and I'm terrible at it. I thought maybe you could help." "I can do that," Marcus said. "My daddy taught me when I was about Tommy's age. Before he left. It's one of the few good memories I got of him." "Then you can give Tommy a better memory than you had," Kate said. "That's what we do, right? We take the broken pieces from our past and we build something better for the future." Over the next few months, Marcus and Kate's families grew close. They had Sunday dinners together, alternating between houses. Marcus taught Tommy how to throw a curveball, while Kate helped Aaliyah with her math homework. Zeus became a fixture in both homes, equally comfortable in either place. The kids became like siblings, constantly texting and making plans, and driving both parents crazy in the way only children can. One evening in late winter, Marcus and Kate sat on his porch watching the kids play basketball in the driveway while Zeus acted as a very unhelpful referee. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Kate sipped her coffee and said, "You know, I've been thinking about that night a lot. About what would have happened if you hadn't stopped." "Don't think about that," Marcus said quickly. "You're here. That's what matters." "I know," Kate said. "But I can't help it. I think about all the little choices that had to line up perfectly. You finishing work at exactly that time. Deciding to take Route 42 instead of the highway. Zeus being with you. Even the storm knocking out the cell towers meant the ambulance took longer, but it also meant you couldn't just call and leave. You had to stay. You had to help. It's like the universe conspired to put you in that exact spot, at that exact moment." Marcus considered this. "My mama used to say we're all part of a bigger story. That sometimes we get little parts to play, and sometimes we get big ones, but every part matters. Maybe that night was my big part. The thing I was supposed to do that would ripple out and touch other lives." "It definitely rippled," Kate said with a laugh. "Did you see the article in the paper last week? About that teenager who pulled his neighbor from a burning house. He said he did it because he saw your story and it made him believe ordinary people could be heroes." Marcus had seen it. He'd cut out the article and put it in his dresser drawer next to Kate's letter. "That's what I hope for," he said. "That maybe somebody out there who's thinking about driving by will remember this story and decide to stop instead. That's worth more than any medal." Kate reached over and squeezed his hand. "You're a good man, Marcus Jenkins. I'm grateful every day that you exist." Marcus squeezed back. "Right back at you, Officer Morrison." They sat in comfortable silence watching their children play. Aaliyah made a basket and Tommy cheered. Zeus barked and ran in circles. It was a simple moment, an ordinary evening, but Marcus knew these were the moments that mattered most. Not the ceremonies or the news coverage or the recognition. This, family, connection, love, the quiet knowledge that you weren't alone in the world. Later that night, after Kate and Tommy had gone home and Aaliyah was asleep, Marcus sat in his living room with Zeus's head in his lap. He thought about the journey that had brought him here. The struggles and the losses and the long lonely nights when he wondered if he was strong enough to keep going. He thought about his mama and his late wife, and all the people who'd helped him along the way, even in small ways. He thought about Kate and Tommy, and how one choice to stop had created this beautiful, unexpected family. Marcus looked down at Zeus, who gazed back with those loyal, trusting eyes. "We did good, boy," Marcus whispered. "We did real good." Zeus's tail thumped against the floor in agreement. Marcus closed his eyes and felt peace settle over him like a warm blanket. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. Life was unpredictable and hard and full of challenges. But he knew he wouldn't face it alone. He had Aaliyah and Zeus, and now he had Kate and Tommy too. He had a community that had rallied around him. He had a story that might inspire others to be brave. Most importantly, Marcus had learned that heroism wasn't about being fearless or perfect or extraordinary. It was about showing up. It was about doing the next right thing, even when you were tired and scared and didn't know if it would be enough. It was about seeing another human being in need and refusing to look away. It was about believing that one person could make a difference, because sometimes one person was all it took. 6 months after that rainy night, Marcus received a letter in the mail. It was from Kate. She'd made a full recovery and was back on duty, though now she worked at a desk training new recruits, instead of patrolling dangerous roads. She wrote about Tommy, about how he talked about Marcus and Zeus all the time. How he wanted to be a hero when he grew up, just like the man who saved his mom. She wrote about how the experience had changed her, made her realize how precious every moment was. How she'd stopped taking tomorrow for granted. At the end of the letter, Kate wrote something that Marcus would carry with him for the rest of his life. "Marcus, you gave me the greatest gift anyone can give. You gave me time. Time to watch my son grow up. Time to be there for his baseball games and his dinosaur phases and his first day of middle school. Time to hug him and tell him I love him. You didn't just save my life that night. You saved every moment I'll ever have from now on. That's not something I can ever repay, but I promise you this. I'll spend every day trying. I'll be the kind of person who stops when someone needs help. I'll be the kind of officer who remembers that behind every call, there's a human being who deserves compassion. I'll be the kind of mother who teaches her son that heroes come in all forms. Sometimes they're single dads in work, boots with loyal dogs and hearts big enough to stop in the rain. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Zeus. You didn't just change my life. You showed me what life is supposed to be about." Marcus folded the letter carefully and put it in his dresser drawer, next to a picture of Aaliyah and Zeus. He thought about that rainy night, about the choice to stop, about how easy it would have been to keep driving, to tell himself someone else would help. But he'd stopped, and because he'd stopped, a little boy still had his mother. A police force still had one of their best. The world still had Kate Morrison. Marcus walked to the living room where Aaliyah was doing homework and Zeus was sleeping in a patch of sunlight. He sat down beside his daughter and ruffled her hair. "I love you, baby girl," he said. "I love you too, Daddy," Aaliyah replied, not looking up from her math problems. Marcus smiled and leaned back into the couch. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. He still worked hard and worried about bills and wondered if he was doing enough for his daughter. But he was content because he'd learned something important that night in the rain. He'd learned that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. That one person can make a difference. That courage isn't about being fearless, it's about acting despite the fear. And most importantly, he'd learned that we're all connected by invisible threads, and when we choose to help each other, those threads become unbreakable bonds. Zeus lifted his head and looked at Marcus with those dark, knowing eyes. Marcus reached down and scratched behind his dog's ears. "Good boy, Zeus," he said quietly. "Very good boy." And in that moment, Marcus Jenkins, single-father factory worker, ordinary man, understood that he'd been part of something bigger than himself. He'd been part of the kind of story that reminds us all why we keep going when things get hard. Why we keep believing in goodness when the world seems dark. Why we keep stopping when we see someone who needs help. Because at the end of the day, we're all just walking each other home, and sometimes the greatest thing we can do is simply refuse to let someone walk alone. The sun streamed through the window, and Marcus closed his eyes, feeling grateful. Grateful for second chances. Grateful for the courage to stop. Grateful for a loyal dog and a loving daughter, and a world that, despite all its problems, still had people like Kate Morrison fighting to make it better. And grateful that on one rainy October night he'd been exactly where he needed to be, to make sure one of those fighters got to keep fighting. That's what heroes do. They show up. They stay. They refuse to give up on each other. And sometimes they have 4 paws and a heart bigger than anyone could imagine. A year after the accident, Marcus stood at Tommy's school, where the principal had asked him to speak to the students about courage and kindness. Marcus looked out at the sea of young faces, all watching him expectantly. He thought about what to say, how to explain something so complex in words they'd understand. "Heroes aren't what you see in movies," Marcus finally began. "They're not people with superpowers or special training. Heroes are regular folks who decide that somebody else's life matters as much as their own. Heroes are people who stop when it would be easier to keep going. Heroes are people who help even when nobody's watching, even when there's no reward. Every single one of you can be a hero. All you have to do is care. All you have to do is act. All you have to do is remember that we're all in this together, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let someone face their darkest moment alone." The students applauded, and Marcus saw Tommy in the front row beaming with pride. Aaliyah sat next to him, equally proud. Kate stood at the back of the auditorium with Zeus, who'd been given special permission to attend. She gave Marcus a thumbs up, and he smiled back. This was his family now. This was his purpose. This was the ripple that would continue long after he was gone. And somewhere out there on a dark, rainy road, another person would face a choice. To stop or to keep driving. To help or to look away. Marcus hoped they'd remember the story. He hoped they'd choose courage. He hoped they'd remember that, in a world that often felt cold and uncaring, the warmth of human compassion was the thing that kept the darkness at bay. That was the legacy Marcus wanted to leave. Not medals or recognition, but a reminder that every life mattered. That every choice mattered. That every moment was an opportunity to be the person someone else needed. That was what heroes did. They showed up. They stayed. They refused to give up on each other. And sometimes they had 4 paws and a heart bigger than anyone could imagine.